Climate activists are taking action against the worsening crisis. The South Durban Community Environmental Alliance has marched against coastal oil and gas exploration. Our reporter, that's Lethiwe Mdluli, was at the march a little bit earlier, but she's back now in our Durban studios and joins us now live here this afternoon on Today. Good afternoon, Lethiwe. Welcome to Today. Thank you very much for your time. So you've been speaking to these groups that have been marching in terms of putting really front and center the issues of climate change. What are they concerned about there on the coast?
Well, Braden, this march actually coincides with the climate change conference that is currently taking place in Egypt. And the environmental groups wanted to have their voices heard in terms of what government or the South African government needs to do and say to northern countries that are also gathering at that conference. We spoke to the environmental group that planned the march today on why they decided to march against climate change today. And basically what they're saying is that they just need transparency from government in terms of moving the country from using fossil fuels to renewable energy. And also they are calling on other countries that have pledged to help African countries to actually make their promises and keep them. They are saying that it's been years with Western and Northern countries promising African countries that they will be funding them into moving away from fossil fuels into renewable energy, but those promises have not yielded any results. And we also saw the marchers also calling on big companies to stop trying to drill in the ocean, saying that that is going to be interrupting ecosystems within the ocean, saying that marine life will be disturbed if this happens. You'd remember that some big companies such as Total, Shell, they wanted to explore the ocean there, and they wanted to see if they can drill for oil and gas. And basically environmental groups are saying that this should not happen and government should protect the environment against this. We spoke to Groundwork here in Pietermaritzburg, a group that usually fights for the environment, and they basically are a group of environmental activists that work together calling for the government to do more to protect our environment. And basically what they are saying is that the northern countries have made promises over the years and they failed to keep their promises, and they're hoping that the money that they have pledged, saying that they will be helping South Africa and other African countries at COP27 actually yields results. While speaking to them a bit earlier on, this is what they had to say.
The president is discussing what we call the Just Energy Transition Partnership investment plan. And that investment plan is looking at and, presents us with a process or plan to make sure that over the next decade, we are able to deal with the shocks that we are going to feel through the just transition. The challenge, however, is that northern governments have promised money, and these northern governments have been promising money since 2009, when ex-minister Zuma sat around a table with them in Copenhagen. They promised $100 billion a year for climate support, climate finance. It's never materialized.
Lethiwe, you also spoke to some of the marchers who took part in today's protest. What are their thoughts?
Well, but then majority of the marches today were those people that were left displaced by the floods in April. And they're basically saying that they've seen what climate change can do firsthand. And they are still living in community shelters 7 months on. And they are hoping that the government, when they come back, they will come back with proper plans as to how the country will be moving away from fossil fuels into renewable energy. They are saying that for them, the country, it seems like it doesn't have a proper plan on how people will be protected, especially those people that work in coal mines and those people that have been affected firsthand, because you'd remember that flood victims here in Durban have not been assisted in terms of housing. They are still living in those community halls. I did speak to some of the marchers that were able to speak to us, and they are saying that they are in support of the country making the transition. but jobs, people need to be protected in that. And while speaking to the environmental groups, they were saying that the government has not been transparent enough in terms of how they're actually going to be moving or going about this process, because there is no plan as to how people or jobs will be protected. You'd remember that a lot of people are working in the mines currently. Those people are unaware of what is currently happening, and the government is not transparent enough when it comes to making those plans available. They're also saying that a lot of people that are affected by climate change are poor people, and those people are unaware of what is currently happening in terms of moving the country to renewable energy, which is something that the government needs to fix. While speaking to some of the marchers, they were speaking about the fact that there's been floods, and the country is currently basically going through a major problem with climate change. This is what they had to say.
We're here because a few people are plundering the planet on which we all depend. Oil companies like Shell double their profits over the COVID period while people were starving, while we are facing such high levels of poverty and drought and flooding, and the people that are responsible are only interested in profiteering. So that handful of people that are gathered in Egypt right now making decisions on behalf of the entire human population and all the other species need to listen to the people on the ground, the people who are suffering from the effects of their decisions.
I live in Durban, and we've already been flooded. Climate change is here, it's now, and the poorest of the poor are getting hurt the worst. So it's a duty, and it feels good to be responsible enough to participate.